I left the city, I've been browsing, treading water that they drowning. My head on a swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Smash Accept podcast, special Grinch episode edition. We're going to hit you up with a little music. Oh, nope, not like that. Definitely going to have to edit the heck out of that. Let's start that again. Welcome to episode 21 of the Smash Accept podcast, special Grinch edition. We're going to hit you up with a little bit of our favorite Christmas music here and let you know about our week 15 and week 16 Grinches.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black pea.
Boom. So today's episode is the Grinch episode, and there's a lot of guys that are fantasy Grinches for you guys. They might have beat you in the playoffs. They might have been guys that you drafted that really came in and just killed your fantasy team. We're going to start here with John, playoff John. I keep calling him John. He keeps correcting me on it,
Playoff John. Yeah.
How are those playoff teams going? And why don't you tell people where they can find you and some of the guys right now that are your, guys that hit for you, or maybe some fantasy Grinches we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah. Hey, so Playoff John here. You can find me right now at Dynasty_trades. Love being here. One of my favorite times of the year, not only Christmas, but championship week in fantasy football. And Mike, I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty good. In fact, there's definitely some Grinches out there, and I've been talking with a lot of people on Twitter. But for me, I actually went 5-0 with my playoff teams. I lost a couple of consolation ones, but I did go 5-0, and especially excited about getting to the final in my home league. Those are the ones that you care about the most with your boys. So yeah, feeling good. I mean, guys like Darren Waller, can I get some love for Waller? Maybe what do you think of a little cowbell? There we go.
Darren Waller season, baby.
Oh man, such a great feeling. I had him on 3 of those 5, and you start off on Thursday night killing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything's coming
awesome.
up playoff John wise. You got that sweet background. We got our new Smash Accept background.
Yeah.
New Chris mic, and we got the the new visuals on you here, looking a little on the sexy side. If you don't mind.
This guy here, Adams, yeah, he helped me in one of those leagues too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's fantastic. 5-0. That's a great way to kick off the Christmas week, right? And let me introduce Mung. How you doing, and how your fantasy team's looking right now?
Hey, what's going on, guys? As always, you guys can find me on Twitter at FFA_Mung. That's MENG. And I made it to the finals in quite a few of my leagues, but I struggled in some others. Certainly was a disappointing outing from Devontae Adams for those who've been relying on him at wide receiver 1 all year. Mike Davis, I thought, was in a smash spot against that Green Bay Packers run defense, but we saw a lot more of Rodney Smith than we expected. And, with Christian McCaffrey likely out again week 16, I don't know how much you can really trust Mike Davis. And there's a couple other guys we'll get to in just a little bit.
Absolutely. This week I was in 10. I made 9 out of the 10. We're going to talk about some of the Grinches that really, that ended that run right there. But, that's a great start from the Smash Accept crew, going into the playoffs, talking about things. And there's some players that we really have advocated. I think, I've been catching a lot of flack from my friends firing the Derrick Henry fan club going, but if you're in a points per carry league, he has been the RB1 in back-to-back weeks or top 3, depending on your status. And luckily, in the Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry trade I made, he got me to the championship. Every team I have Derrick Henry on, he has put me there. The other guy that I've really been advocating that I started in every week and every single league that I had is Logan Thomas. I mean, Logan Thomas went off again. A lot of people were asking, is this somebody I should be starting? We get the switch over to Dwayne, Strip Club Haskins. And I'm like, no, This is, we'll get to that in a little bit, but that was our dad joke of the day. But, he comes out there and he gets 13 catches, puts up 29.5 in a tight end premium. And that's tops for tight end position. Him and Waller were right there neck and neck. And that's a guy that we were saying for a while. We've been talking about it probably for about 5-6 weeks, where that's somebody you can buy on the cheap that could move you into the fantasy playoffs. And then once you get in there, people were like, should I start him? He paid big dividends. We want to jump right into week 16. We have a lot on plate with that, but let's talk about some of our fantasy Grinches, the guys that have really put us down. Dynasty Jacobian sent in, he got Derek Carr last week. That was his Grinch of the year is getting Derek Carr. And we all know what happened, and not really something that, he could prevent. Puts up 2.8 fantasy points and gets that injury. But on the flip side, Marcus Mariota looked like what we wanted him to look like, right? I mean, Marcus Mariota went out there, Gruden made the signing of him, picked him up. We knew he was always high on him, but that's what we always wanted to see in Tennessee, John. And I thought Mariota looked like someone who might create a little controversy if he plays that way the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to one of the listeners of the show at Fish Sticks, like the name of the bands, and he was actually throwing that Mariota thing out there as could he be the next Tannehill, because he's liked by the GM. Maybe Gruden likes him. Maybe they'll actually like what they have going there in LV. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. He looked really great. And I was, of course, again, back to the Waller thing. I mean, that was working like magic because it's part of that Gruden system with the tight ends and the running back. So definitely worth keeping an eye on Mariota.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, in Dynasty Refinery Listener League 1, before the season started, I traded Mecole Hardman and Mung, I know that's your guy, and the 202 for Darren Waller and Marcus Mariota. Waller put me in the championship, and it might have seemed like an overpay at the time, but that was someone that I really believed in. And, Mung, were you, from watching the game, I mean, are you feeling like Mariota actually has a legitimate shot? I think that's a great point that he said could be a Ryan Tannehill type thing, a reclamation project, someone that really could bounce back in the community. Or are you thinking this is just a one-time thing?
No, I'm staying away from both of the Raiders quarterbacks, to be honest here. It sounds like Derek Carr is already practicing, so he is on track to start this week if he's healthy. So I don't know how much we're going to see from Mariota. It's possible that the Raiders could cut Carr after this season. They would certainly save, over $20 million. And I think they have Mariota on a deal for one more year for fairly cheap. But, whatever happens, Mariota is great for those rushing fantasy points. But real life, they lost the game. He kept them in it for a while, but he threw some bad throws. Probably should have had more than the one pick, I think. So long term, I would sell either Raiders quarterback if you can get a first or maybe even an early second.
I like it. So our next listener that sent in was at Boustros11. That's Boutros. And he sent in, it was Robbie Anderson and Russell Wilson for him, and Russell Wilson put up 19 fantasy points and 6-point passing touchdowns. So it's serviceable, but it's not the Russell Wilson we wanted. I know going along with that game, DK looked a little bit hobbled, and I know a lot of people sent in that they had DK Metcalf as one of their Grinches for the week. Talk to me a little bit about the DK Metcalf injury, that you guys have picked up, and if those are guys that you had on your Grinch list as well.
Yeah, I think that it was actually Decaf Metcalf that showed up in week 15. I know that was a tough one, and that hurt a lot of people. And I think it's fair to say Russ was not cooking either. No. That offense was out of sync, and thankfully one of my opponents was going in with Russell Wilson. It did hurt me in one other league. But yeah, I'm actually really worried about Seattle in week 16 as well. We'll come back to that. But yeah, he just – Metcalf has been taken out of some games. He's got Jalen Ramsey in week 16. I'm not feeling good about Russell Wilson or Decaf in week 16.
And it's tough to sit a guy like DK Metcalf. I mean, you have to have a really nice option. And we're going to talk about a lot of nice options, some guys that we are going to green light that you could potentially start over him. And the last one we had sent in from my boy at DeBeezy BFF, doing great things over there with the Untouchables. He said Amari Cooper. I mean, Amari Cooper comes out.
2 catches, 10 yards.
Yep, 2 catches, 10 yards.
That was it.
It's like he did it. He broke it down real nicely. You know, 1 catch, 5 yards in the first half and in the second half, enough to make me throw my controller across the television. You know, just whole way across the room. No, but Amari really, really struggled. It was nice to see CD Lamb. You know, his stats probably got padded a little bit with that kickoff return there on the onside kick. And Michael Gallup showed up. So I mean, Dallas is a situation that's very difficult to predict there, but Amari kind of, he let you down, and chances are if you have him, you're probably not moving on. In one of my leagues, start 10, I put up 200 points, and Amari still had 2.5. So the rest of my guys balled out just to even get me there. So, Mung, are you trusting Amari Cooper or any of the Cowboys wide receivers into this, crazy week 16?
I mean, trust is hard to say, but certainly the Eagle isn't that scary. So I think they're still viable flex options, but just understand that they have a low floor.
Yeah, one of my other Grinches was Zeke Elliott, and then Tony Pollard came in, and I know the yards per carry weren't there, but the fantasy points sure as heck were.
Oh, amazing.
I mean, he came in and if you started him, I mean, there are teams out there where people started. I said, send me your roster. One guy showed me he had McKissick, Pollard, Chad Hansen, and he's in the ship. So we talked about it last week. Mung said, play the guys that are hot, play the guys that are the opportunity. And when Zeke went down, I've been advocating this since the Dynasty Refinery days of those premium handcuffs. I know a lot of podcasts don't talk about it, and they're like, hey, forget about handcuffs. But if you have guys on your bench like Mike Davis, which we used to talk about, and like Tony Pollard, like Alexander Madison, they are league-winning backs, and that's why we have them there. That's why you can pay, a late second and get one of those guys as a stash if you had Zeke, because he outperformed anything Zeke did all year long, John.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. And for those of you that were sitting on him, it definitely paid off there in Week 15. I did talk to a few people that essentially won because of Pollard. It was crazy to think that was the first game that Zeke missed because of an injury.
Yeah.
And Pollard looked really good. And then nobody feels good about playing Zeke here in Week 16. Sounds like he was limited at practice today. But I mean, at this moment in time, I'm feeling pretty good about potentially playing Pollard again if Zeke sits. And you kind of start to just put some doubt in there going into the off season about Zeke, about his future. He's got the huge, $90 million contract, but just it puts so much doubt around him going into the offseason. So that's a guy that could potentially lose value. I think obviously all his owners are kind of hyping up the Dak return, right? And that you got to consider that. But I mean, Zeke seems to be losing value by the minute right now.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a kickback here, though, because I mean, I read it, it was just an idea report, but I mean, something like this was before the Jets went, and the Jets are the Grinch of Christmas, right? Like everybody that ruined everybody's Christmas. They go and lose Trevor Lawrence. But before that happened, I saw a report saying that they were going to offer a second-round pick potentially for Trevor Lawrence because they have tons of room under the cap. They go and they get a running back to protect their young investment. That seems to be out the window now, so we don't really need to get too much into that. Let's jump right into our Dynasty Grinches, the guys that we had at the quarterback position. I'll go first. My Grinch is Matthew Stafford. I thought Matthew Stafford this year, coming off, yes, a small sample size, but what he played last year, he projected as the QB2 over that time. If you extrapolated his stats this year, he has struggled mightily. Right now, he's injured. I know I was asking your guys' advice quite a few where I was trading for cheaper versions. I was trying to trade for Rivers and Brady. Luckily, I didn't trade for Roethlisberger, but get some quick additions there because Matthew Stafford has not put up the numbers that we want. He's been banged up. Kenny Galladay's missed most of the season, and I love Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, but the value is on the way down now. John, who is your QB Grinch for the 2020 season?
Oh, man, for the season, I'd probably say Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, I was going to go with Big Ben. He's just Pittsburgh has just really kind of imploded recently. They went from staying undefeated, and now they can't beat Cincinnati, who doesn't really have much to play for. that was a struggle. Lump of coal for Big Ben.
Man.
Yeah, that was brutal to watch, and they just can't get anything going right now. And then for Week 16, it was definitely Russell Wilson. He was the QB Grinch for me. He did not cook, or I guess you could say he burned the Christmas turkey. I mean, it was brutal. He burned down a few rosters there, and just could not get things going. And it's kind of tough to see because he was in the MVP race there for a while, and he got a lot of people to the playoffs. But when you need him most, he kind of collapsed there and cost a lot of people. I think one of our guys on Smash Accept crew, also Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson, kind of cost him, and they kind of went down with the ship too. So Seattle was a big problem for Week 15 playoff teams.
Absolutely. Mung, who is your Grinch at the quarterback position?
Yeah, for the whole season, I would say Jimmy Garoppolo. I was fairly high on him coming into the year just because they had Deebo Samuel, they added Brandon Ayuk. If everyone had stayed healthy, I mean, I think there could have been potential for this offense. But Kittle goes down with an injury. Samuel and Ayuk have both missed time throughout the year, and I mean, it sounds like the Niners just had terrible luck both on offense and defense. And, you can't help that. You can't predict that. But, it would have been really fun to see this entire offense healthy and, run in that Kyle Shanahan scheme.
Sure. They just added their quarterback of the future. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Josh Rosen is on the roster now. And we know if you put Josh Rosen on the roster, that 101 pick might be there. So the Jets, the Jaguars might really tear it up these last few weeks. And we put them right back in position. No, I'm just kidding completely. Let's move to the wide receiver position. My Grinch, and this one hurts. This one hurts bad because I love this guy, and made a couple bets here on eating at a Waffle House. But that is Chris Godwin, the wide receiver 2 last year, and he just hasn't clicked with Brady the way you wanted to. He had some nice games there, and I'm not saying he's a dynasty sell. A lot of people are really trying to jump ship. And you got to realize he's going to be a free agent. He could go to a great landing spot. We don't know. I mean, we have no idea where the future is going to land for him. The talent is there. He's been banged up. He hasn't quite clicked the way we wanted him to, but he's definitely my Grinch for the 2020 season. Mung, hit us up with a wide receiver that is your Grinch. My special bonus Grinch was clearly Keenan Allen. We 2.8 fantasy points. The only team that I got knocked out of the playoffs is Keenan Allen really just stank it up, and I lost to, unfortunately, Mr. Third Place himself, Riley Bymaster, who has really just totally set me up for failure since he's been on the podcast. He's been my bad luck. And, but yeah, congrats to him going to the championship. And now I have to wonder if I should play for third place. Like if I actually win third place, he's going to try to give me that title there. But Mung, who's your wide receiver?
I think it's got to be Julio Jones because, he's been great when he's on the field, but he's missed so much time with this recurring hamstring injury. And we've seen other injuries sap good wide receivers who are getting up there in age. I mean, look at AJ Green's value now. You could probably not even get a third for him. And I mean, T.Y. Hilton, he's shown some life in the recent weeks, but, I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. And it might be time to considering parting ways with Julio Jones if you're not looking like a contender for 2021. It's getting hard to rely on him. He used to be that week in, week out guy who would have a safe fantasy floor and, rarely score touchdowns, but still had that huge ceiling. And I just don't know if that's him anymore.
Yeah, I saw a deal in my big money league today. No trade deadline, so you got to expect some of these kind of things. The two teams, myself and the other one, we both scored well over 200 points and beat our opponents by over 80. So we got some powerhouse teams. And he traded CeeDee Lamb and a first, which is going to be like the 111 or 112 for Julio and Aaron Jones. So he jumped in, he went all in for that championship. But is that something that you think is, if you were going in for that championship, we don't even know if Julio's playing here. Me personally, I think the CeeDee Lamb side is a smash for me.
Yeah, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, he's struggled without Dak Prescott, but that whole Cowboys offense has, and I think he's a great buy low this offseason.
For sure. John, who is your wide receiver that has really just been the Grinch, for your teams?
Yeah. Oh, well, let's start with Week 16 Grinch. How about Juju? how hard was that to watch? Because I kind of like this kid, and I have a couple of shares. But he came out with a negative score. Like, I'm hearing these horror stories of people who started him, including some people that it was so close, they were worried about basically stat corrections. And so they played him and then ended up losing because of that. And I still have that image of him getting blown up. I mean, he's seeing Christmas stars or visions of sugar plums danced above his helmet. But either way, not much more TikToking going on for Juju. Did you hear he came out and said, "All right, I'm done with it. I don't want my teammates or myself to get hurt here."
Twitter has absolutely won the Christmas season by some of these Juju. Some of these videos that they've done, some of these edits where you see him like dancing, being happy, and then just getting crushed, and fumbling there.
Yeah, that was hard to watch, and I'm kind of wondering what to do there with Juju shares. So that's a tough one there. He may get shipped out of Pittsburgh, is what a lot of people think, and so you could see his value potentially spike there if that happens. Then the other one I was going to throw in there as a Grinch on the season, in some ways, is Will Fuller, because he got us all excited and kind of like I was saying earlier, is kind of getting a lot of teams towards the playoffs, and then he's gone right when everyone needs him. So I'm going to call that one a Grinch as well. And after seeing that happen, I don't know that I ever touch Will Fuller with a 30-9.5 foot pole again, Mike.
There you go. The one guy who's been, like a greasy wet peel to me has been Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, I went out there, and if you guys follow me, I put it out there. I was like, hey, Drew Brees is back. That means it's Michael Thomas time, right? 13 minutes later, they announced he is not playing. And I must have gotten 40 messages on Twitter, group messages, things on there, and be like, that didn't age well. Michael Thomas is a tricky situation now. I have talked with John offline here and said, trade him for Stephon Diggs if you're still in a deadline league. Try to make some kind of parallel move, because this is tricky. Who knows if Drew Brees is back next year? He looked okay with Taysom Hill, but if you haven't gotten out, if you're still in the playoffs, you might be able to make one of those kind of parallel type moves. Mom.
Yeah, I got really, without knowing about his, ankle injury and gonna be on IR. A few weeks back, I actually traded Michael Thomas for Calvin Ridley and Derrick Henry for the playoff run. So, I mean, certainly I didn't know to expect Thomas going on IR, but those are the kind of deals that you just, don't let it get forced in the mouth.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. The running back position. So the Grinch there, this is difficult to say. I mean, for the season, my Grinch is 100% Joe Mixon. I had Joe Mixon. This was going to be the year, right? He got Joe Burrow. You could say the whole Bengals offense for that matter, except for T. Higgins and maybe a little bit of Tyler Boyd. But Joe Burrow comes in. We're all excited. Mixon's gets this opportunity and just can't stay healthy. He's missed 9 straight games. He didn't look that good before. And for the playoffs, I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey. We've been saying it on here for weeks. Mike Davis is the guy to own. Christian McCaffrey sounds doubtful again this week. It doesn't sound like he's going to be back for those Week 16 championships. And hopefully you guys listen to us, that you went out there and you picked up Mike Davis and you had him as your backup. Unfortunately, we had what was the wide receiver or the running back that just came in and stole the show? It was Rodney
Smith.
Rodney Smith, yeah, like so basic. Rodney Smith coming in, catching multiple passes and really taking away about 7 or 8 points from Mike Davis. But those are my 2 Grinches for the season and for the week. John, why don't you take us home here?
Could we have a quick moment of silence for Todd Gurley? Thank you.
no said right there. Todd Gurley is toast.
R.I.P. Yeah, no, I mean, I frankly didn't have many shares of him, but wow, I mean, not only did he hurt you on the season down the stretch, like predictably, he would, but in Week 15, he basically is not even the starter anymore. They came out and said that he's behind Ito Smith. I mean, wow. So that would be mine. I mean, there's a few others we could throw in. We already talked about Zeke and Mixon. Week 16, I might throw in like Kenyon Drake and Kareem Hunt. Just really hurt some teams. Just didn't show up at all.
Absolutely. Mung?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Mike Davis already, but he's really been a letdown in the play past week. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, against the Packers, certainly expected a lot more than that. He's been a workhorse, been a top 10 fantasy quarterback on the year, but now, splitting time, it's hard to trust him, especially against a tough Washington defense this week. I don't know that he's more than a desperation flex here. And then a guy that I benched this past week, Chris Carson. I mean, the Seahawks offense has really slowed down over the last few weeks. And, they let Russ cook early in the season, but now they've gone back to that ground and pound approach. And I know the Jets just took down the Rams, but that's still, a top 5 defense in the league. And I don't love any of the Seahawks this week.
Yeah, it's hard to like any of those. I mean, it's a tough situation trying to figure out what to do with some of those guys. And we're going to break that down with our weeks, week 16 sit and stats, but the last one's sit and starts. Stats. It's Christmas time, I've been working nonstop. I made 70 fruit baskets today. I'm a produce manager. I got 15 fruit trays. I got to start at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I'm like, my mind's on them fruit trays and putting the oranges and pears and whatnot in there, The worst part of the fruit basket is sometimes putting in bananas. Ugh, that's no good. The Grinch at the tight end position, your banana. Who is it, John?
With the greasy black peel too there.
Nobody wants those. You know what I mean?
No. So tight end for me, I have to admit, I'm, just another quick victory lap, if I may. I really, on all my rosters this year, I had like a top tight end. And it seems like it's a formula that works. So whether it's Kelsey or Waller, you know how much I love those two guys. The one that did hurt in week 15, though, was Hawkinson. And I actually did just recently move Waller ahead of him in my rankings, and it's kind of further validated because he just totally disappeared. I don't know if you saw that. He didn't show up when people needed him the most there. Tight end has really been a tough position. In fact, it seems like throughout the offseason we were talking about how deep it was and how you could just get a tight end late. Whoops. That didn't pan out too well, did it? I mean, we found some guys like Logan Thomas, okay, but most of those other guys really didn't show up.
Yeah, I feel like it's that I do it all the time with my drafts. Is I want top 3 or wait till the end, and all my startups.
That's it.
If I did not get those top 3, I have Logan Thomas on 9 dynasty teams because I did not get those top 3. I took stabs at Irv Smith, Mike Gesicki, and then real late Logan Thomas. And I feel like sometimes that's the way to go. You get Kittle, you get Kelsey, you get Hawk, or you wait, and then you pick up the Tanya, you pick up the Logan Thomases. And that way you prevent yourself from overpaying at the tight end position. Like I did, I know a lot of people did with my tight end Grinch, Zach Ertz. I mean, I was on the Zach Ertz bandwagon. I was like, everybody was talking about Goddard, which you could throw Goddard on that Grinch list too, because just the tight ends in Philadelphia have not produced, and Zach Ertz looks slow. It looks like it's, he was on the wrong side of the trade market now. You're not going to get anything for Zach Ertz. I tried getting a second, and it seems like that's a stretch, which seems crazy to me, because a year from ago or a year and a half ago, we were talking about his stats were right there with them big 3. And now, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to move Zach Ertz. You're going to have to just ride him out and hope he gets a resurgence here or, potentially a move. Mung, who's your guy?
Yeah, I was never on Tyler Higbee, but he was a good sell if you dumped him this offseason. And for me, Austin Hooper, coming from the Atlanta offense where he was a key piece of that receiving core, moving to this run-heavy scheme in Cleveland. But I will say that Hooper still looked good in limited action, and I think he might actually be a buy low this coming offseason. But, talking about the tight end landscape in general, I think the lack of, solid options at that position immediately makes Kyle Pitts a top 5 dynasty tight end coming in as a rookie.
Kyle Pitts is going to be something.
Love me some Kyle Pitts. We're going to talk about him.
That is the Pitts. Well, guys, that is the end of our Smash Accept Grinch episode. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, and then tune in to our, week 16 matchup that we're going to have right after this. John, why don't you tell people what you got going on and where they can find you and what you're super excited about for week 16?
Yeah, I'm so excited for week 16 here and wish everyone the best of luck. Please do reach out to me at dynasty_trades for any help at all with your week 16 lineups, even in your consolation brackets. And a lot of you are already looking at off-season moves. I love the off-season as much as the regular season. And we're going to be bringing in some discussions on upcoming rookies and things like that, who's going to gain value in the off-season and all that. So reach out anytime. I love to mix it up with everybody on Twitter. And again, good luck in the final.
Yeah, I think the Dynasty offseason is my main season. That's what I absolutely love. We got some incredible guests lined up. We're not going to jump too much out there, but I'm really excited about some of the people we have coming on. Mung, what do you have going on right now? Anything going on with Fan Tracks? And what do you want to say to the people here for week 16?
Yeah, real quick before we get into that, I have some breaking news. While we were just recording a few minutes ago, I got a trade offer in my inbox, and I did accept. I traded Drew Lock, Christian Kirk, and the 204 for David Montgomery for this title game.
Wow, nice. I am loving that.
Do it. No, David Montgomery has slowly, 4 weeks in a row, over 23 points. He has killed it. So that's a great move there. And you can find me at dynasty_dadff. Thanks again for tuning in and enjoy the process.